Welcome to Echo 201, Study Session 1, Essentials of Economics, Introduction. In this study session, you will explore the historical development and meaning of economics. You will also examine the basic source of economic problems faced by the society. Lastly, you'll be exposed to how economics is a science and the basic tools of economic analysis. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Outline the historical development of economics as a field of study. 2. Define the meaning of economics. 3. Point out the basic source of economic problems faced by individuals and the society. 4. Show how economics is a science. 5. Use the basic tools of economic analysis. Brief history of economics. Economics is very primary to the lives of individuals and the society at large. In this central point, one can agree with Karl Marx in describing economics as a foundation on which rests other superstructures, political, social, and so on, of the society. The study of economics dates back to the time of Aristotle, who described it as economikoi. The classical economists treated economics as a political economic subject. However, from the time of Alfred Marshall, economics assumed the specified form for which it is known today. In other words, it attempted to remove itself from the value ethical consideration and move more in the direction of scientific analysis. The meaning of economics. Many economists have attempted to define economics from a narrow perspective and thereby leaving out the main substance of the subject matter. Aristotle considered economics as the study of the household. Marshall defines it as the study of mankind in the ordinary business of life. Addison, on its own, defined economics as a social science which covers the actions of individuals in the processing, exchanging, and consuming of goods and services. Although these definitions, one way or the other, deal with some aspect of the subject matter, they however leave out the central problems, which are scarcity, choice, accumulation, and capital utilization. A more appropriate definition has been given by Lord Robbins. It defined economics as a science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. The above definition is more relevant because it not only highlighted the role of economics as a science, but also focuses on the major problems of economics. The source of economic problems. Every society is endowed with human and natural resources. These resources include land, which is a free gift of nature, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. These resources are collectively referred to as factors of production. It is these resources that are combined by the producers to produce commodities. Commodities can be broadly divided into goods and services. Goods are tangible, such as television, pressing irons and cars, while services are intangible. Examples of these include insurance, haircut, and teaching. When we sum up all the commodities which are produced in a given country over a period of time, we have what is commonly referred to as gross national product. As all of us are aware, we do not desire goods and services for their own sakes. Rather, we desire them because they help us in satisfying our wants. Thus, the whole essence of production in our economy is the satisfaction of human wants. However, looking around us today will make us realize that the available resources cannot satisfy our wants. The more we satisfy certain wants, the more we desire better things. Practically speaking, we all desire better food, clothing, housing, cars, and other good things of life. Though we say human wants are unlimited, we also know that the resources needed to satisfy these wants are finite or limited. For instance, while we all desire good cars, not everybody can afford one. This therefore gives rise to one of the basic problems encountered in most aspects of economics, the problem of scarcity. The divergence between wants and resources make choice inevitable. Because it is impossible to satisfy all our wants, we have to satisfy some and leave others unsatisfied. Thus, a mechanism is needed to choose which of our wants that must be presently satisfied. The satisfaction of some wants implies the sacrifice of others. A means of determining which of the wants to satisfy is by constructing a scale of preference where wants are arranged in descending order of their importance. A rational consumer will prefer to satisfy the most pressing needs before going to the less pressing ones. The act of sacrificing one want for the satisfaction of another is called opportunity cost or real cost. Let us consider a practical example here. If an individual is faced with the option of buying either a textbook or a sandal because he cannot afford the two, and he eventually buys the textbook, the sandals which he had foregone is called the opportunity cost of the textbook. On a larger scale, firms and governments are also engaged in this process. The firms make a choice between the production of a type of commodity or the other. For example, a firm may want to decide between using a capital-intensive means of production or labor-intensive one. The one it eventually chooses will have a real cost. The provision of services by the government also involves opportunity cost. If the government decides to build more schools and finds the necessary money by cutting down on defense expenditure, the latter that is foregone is the opportunity cost of building more schools. Basic economic problems. Every economy, be it capitalist or socialist, is faced with resolving 6 basic economic questions. The manner by which they resolve these questions highlights the similarities and differences between economic systems. 1. Determining whether the resources of the country are being fully utilized or otherwise. Each country has a production possibility frontier, which determines the maximum output of commodities which the country can produce if it is operating its resources efficiently. If a country is inside the boundary of the curve, say for example at point A, then this implies that resources of the country are idle or inefficiently utilized. On the other hand, if the country is at point B, That is, on the core, there is optimal utilization of resources. However, it is a point of fact that most economies are inside their production possibility frontier. This is why we have unemployment problem in all economies of the world. It is the responsibility of economists to find how these problems can be solved. 2. Determining which commodities to produce and in what quantities. This is the allocation of scarce resources among alternative uses. In a free market economy, that is capitalist economy, what to produce and in what quantities are determined by the price mechanism. On the other hand, in a socialist economy, it is the central government that will determine what to produce. 3. Determining what methods of production to use in producing these commodities. There are two methods of production: labor intensive or capital intensive. When, for example, more of labor relative to capital is used in production, and then we say that production process is labor intensive and vice versa. A society may decide to use more of labor or capital resources depending on the proportion of the available resources at our disposal. At point A, more of capital is used, while at point B, more unit of labor is used. Number 4, determining for whom the goods are to be produced. That is, those who consume the goods produced. In real life, we know that few people consume disproportionately large output of the society, while the bulk of the society has to take the remaining. The economic explanation for this has since the time of Adam Smith been of major concern for economists. In socialist economies, the government often interferes in the economy to correct the lopsidedness in resource distribution. Number 5, determining whether production and distribution system of the society is efficient. In economic sense, we say production is efficient if it is impossible to relocate resources in such a way as to produce more of one commodity without producing less of others. The commodities so produced are said to be efficiently distributed if it will be impossible to redistribute them among the individuals in the society and make at least one person better off without simultaneously making someone else worse off. Number 6, determining whether the country's capacity to produce output is growing over time or if it is static. In this case, economists are concerned with how to shift the production possibility frontier of the economy. This is what we refer to as economic growth. Economics, a science subject. Generally, economics is often regarded as a science subject. However, a distinction is made between physical science and social science. Physical science refers to biological or natural sciences, such as physics, chemistry, and biology. Economics is not a physical science, but a social science. This is because it is a scientific study of human beings. Economics is regarded as a science because its method of analysis is that of science. Science involves the formation of hypotheses about reality. However, in order to be able to validate such hypotheses, observations are generated that will provide evidence for or against any hypotheses that we wish to test. While such tests are usually carried out in laboratory settings in the physical sciences, this is very difficult to do in economics. But all the same, data are collected on the subject of interest, and statistical and mathematical tools are then used to see whether available data confirms the predictions of the hypothesis. Thus, economics is regarded as scientific in as much as it attempts to relate questions to evidence. Tools of economic analysis. In economics, two methods of analysis are often used. They are 1. Functional representation, and 2. Logical influence. Concept of functional relationship. This is a situation where economic relationships are represented visually by graphical methods or symbols, that is mathematical approach. For instance, S is a function of price, which is supply is a function of price, that is supply depends on price. Then C equals Y, consumption is a function of income. These are general functions in the sense that we are not specific as to the nature of the relationship between the dependent and the independent variables. In one, if C equals A plus BY, this is specific. C equals dependent variable, Y equals independent variable. A and B are called the parameters of the function. A is the intercept and B is the slope. Logical influence. This is alternatively referred to as logical deduction or theorizing and economic investigations. In this latter method, we formulate a theory and then test this theory against real-world situations. 6 steps are involved in formulating a theory. These are A. Identification of problem, B. Assumptions about the phenomena, C. Formulation of theories, D. Verification, E. Correction if need be, and F. Application. Often, economic theory is based on relations between magnitudes and variables. Variables in economic analysis are categorized into 2, endogenous and exogenous variables. Endogenous variables are the ones which have their explanations in the theory that is in focus. It can be known with the model under consideration. Exogenous variables have their explanation outside a model. The relationship among variables, whether exogenous or endogenous variables, can be expressed mathematically by the concept of functional relationship. Summary. In this study session, you learned that economics is a science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. Basic concepts that underline the study of economics are scale of preference, scarcity, choice, and opportunity cost. Every economy is faced with resolving some basic economic questions, but the manner by which they resolve these questions highlights the similarities and differences between different economic systems. Economics is regarded as science because it involves formation of hypotheses about realities. This is the end of study session 1. Thanks for listening.